Give us a sense of what you've been feeling there, meeting investors on the ground, and what their take has been for this market, which has been essentially and largely on fire, given how money has been just pouring in.
Indeed. Well, good morning, Rishad and Menaka. Thank you for having us. Look, this is our 8th annual summit in India, and it's really exciting. I think every investor that we speak to, every corporate that we speak to, and both between venture capitalists, private equity, and financial investors, I think there's a palpable sense of the entrepreneurial spirit really coming alive. I think there is excitement within the growth of the corporates, whether it's the new economy companies, whether it's healthcare, consumer, and fintech. I think there's a really palpable sense, and many of our global investors have come after a few years. And I think the excitement in terms of both the global economy at present, in spite of the risks that Jamie mentioned, and India within that in particular, I think there's a lot of interest to spend more time here.
Now, there's been a bit of a lull when it comes to the IPO pipeline there in India, but we've had a couple of perhaps optimistic listings in the US. I'm talking Instacart and also, of course, Arm Holdings. Has that moved the dial at all, and how do you expect this particular segment of the market, which is so lucrative for banks such as yourself, to pick up again?
No, I think you're right. The lull in IPO market has been a global phenomenon, not just limited to India. I think, yes, we are in an environment right now where, for the time being, I think interest rates are at a position where the market is expecting that inflation will be under control and rates have almost peaked. Again, there is a risk that doesn't happen with stagflation and higher rates. For the time being, though, I think investors have the risk appetite to invest in IPOs. And if you have good companies like the ones you mentioned in the US, I think the IPO market window is open. And India in particular has a slew of new economy companies who are doing a great job of not just growth, but also profitability. And I think when you combine those characteristics of growth and profitability, you will find that the Indian IPO market, along with the global market, will gradually open. I think it's also a question of when companies want to go public, when their shareholders want to exit. But I think definitely it is on a trend of gradual opening and normalization after perhaps 2 years of very, very high valuations and about 18 months of no activity. I think we are heading towards hopefully more normalized activity globally.
Achintya, what do you make of the Chinese recovery at this point in time, economic policy there? Because a lot of the flows that returned to India mid this year were flows that were leaving China in some sense.
I partly agree, but I think, in my view, I think China is going to continue to be an important part of the global markets in the next few years. There have been some hiccups recently over the last year, but more recently, they have taken more policy actions which are favorable to the market. While India may have benefited in the short term, I personally think that both India and China can continue to get more outflows globally. These are two markets which will continue to grow in importance for investors across asset classes, whether it's credit or equity. So I think in the short term, we might have benefited, but I actually believe that investors are willing to put more money both in India and China. There will be periods where one country may have slight period of geopolitical risks or otherwise, but I think it is not at the cost of one another, but I think both countries will get an increasing share of the global interest in investor allocation.